let's talk about COVID vaccines now. You made a very facetious prediction that there might one day be a class action against governments and Big Pharma when people's fingers fell off as a result of the vaccine. Now tell me, Tim, has that prediction turned out tragically and sadly to be truer than you expected?
Yeah, well, this was just a little throwaway line. I'm like, here's a really good reason to get vaccinated. You don't want to miss out on the action, the class action suit. The world's largest, when in a few years everyone's fingers start falling off. Well, last week, there's this tragic story of a guy in the US, took his shots, did the right thing, falls unconscious a couple of weeks later. They find him in his apartment. They take him to hospital. He's now in a coma. And when he does eventually wake up, they've chopped 8 of his fingers off because of blood clots, which is awful. And let's just add the kicker. This is the guy's profession. He's a guitarist. So, it's adding another level of horror to this story. But yeah, well, let's just say that maybe his fingers didn't exactly fall off, but it doesn't make any difference if you don't have the damn things anymore, does it?
A lot of the dire predictions about these vaccines seem to be coming slightly true. Now, talking about the vaccines, when Anthony Albanese first got into office, one of the first things he said was, quote, "The pandemic is not over." Tim, are you getting the feeling that ordinary Australians have stopped thinking this pandemic is anything worth worrying about?
I think there's a large slab of us who are over it, but there is a resilient Karen community who are not going to let it go. And I've noticed just around where I live in the Central Coast that mask wearing is up a little bit. Interestingly, I remember when masks were sort of officially, you were allowed to give the masks a miss, and there were predictions from some quarters, the left-wing quarters, that the unmasked will be bullying the masked, which I've never noticed that happening. But it was always the other way anyway. It was the masked screaming at the unmasked, unclean, unclean, as if it made any difference to them. The mask is, we'll talk about this a bit later as well, but the mask is a devotional symbol. We know they don't work. We've read the studies. We know about this stuff. So I think it's largely a bit of performance art at this point.
Tim, there's talk again that taxation is going to affect the price of beer. What do you think of $10 schooners, and what can the government do to avoid this, the awful headlines that will ensue if this happens?
Well, there was a government plan under Morrison to reduce the tax on beer at the tap. It was specifically to get people out and into pubs again and reviving the economy and so on. And it's been reversed, obviously, and now we're looking at $10 schooners. But it's like, remember the 70s? Or maybe you don't, but I certainly do. But there was an annual headline in the Herald Sun in Melbourne, or the Sun News Victorial as it was then, beer cigs up. I think it was like a permanent sort of layout they had. They just dug it out every year. And we're well and truly back in the beer cigs up era, which is just great.